Your employees are the pillars of your business, and HR builds and reinforces those pillars. At WorkSpring, we recognize the importance of a strong, engaged workforce, which is why we support private and public organizations with our customizable HR solutions. Our HR experts can support your team through every part of the employee journey, from their first day to their last. Whether you need assistance developing a process, guidance on streamlining systems, or a helping hand to take over some or all of the associated tasks, we're on your side. Learn more at workspring.org. All right,
I'd like to talk about it on the
yeah,
air.
we're
All right, my guess.
This is witty banter.
no.
Oh,
So
wait.
we're not there yet.
Yeah,
We start with witty banter, and then we make.
That's
our way
right.
It's
to-
what's called repartee.
yeah.
How do you spell that?
It's REPARTAY. Taylor Swift, as in Taylor Swift.
There's no chance that is actually how that's spelled. But all right, so there is no excuse
Right,
for
this
you to
mic
not
is
be in the microphone.
It's
now.
like industrial.
She's gonna find a way.
I know. No, because she's still going to do what she
Love will
does,
find a way.
which is like I'm going to sit here in silence, and then when I've got a question, I'm just
That's
going
right. She just walks out.
Can you hear this?
over here. Oh, that's perfect. What is this like?
That was me drinking water.
Your weekly. No, everyone knows what that was.
Is it close enough?
Oh man.
Who's watching White Lotus? Let's talk about that for a second. No? Neither of you?
I've
Come
never
on.
seen it.
What the hell are you guys doing?
I've been
with your
watching
time?
West Wing since 2016.
Is that the show that you have on like repeat all
Yeah.
the time, no matter what?
Yes.
Like in the background?
Yep.
For me, since you asked, I range between The Office,
Yep.
sometimes Parks and Rec, but often is Veep,
All right.
which is one of the best shows ever made. in
That's
Parks,
what I've
as
been
far as I'm
told.
concerned.
Yeah.
I feel like you'd have a hard time beating West Wing,
Yeah.
but Parks and Rec. I love watching the like outtakes
Yeah.
of Parks and Rec because the show itself is so funny.
Yeah.
But then like when the characters break each other, it's great.
Kevin, didn't you say before we got on the air that everyone should turn their phones off?
I didn't say that officially, but I will say if you have candy, now is the time to unwrap that.
Yeah.
Because the show is about to start. And
It's a
Matt,
good thing I
it's-
already pre-unwrapped my Werther's Originals I've been keeping
Nice.
in my pocket.
Nice. They're already
Yep.
melted.
It's my day. Big
Okay,
day for
Matt.
me.
I think it's great that you're the one that's distracted, but yet it's your guest.
Yeah.
That's
Maybe
right.
that actually could have been your guest saying, "I'm here."
I'm
So we
leaving.
don't. Oh, I'm leaving. I'm out.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So what's
Okay.
Let's
All
do
right,
it.
guys. Matt Killam's show, which the data is in, is the
In demand.
favorite. That's
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
do you need help with that?
I don't need your help.
I mean,
It's all fixed.
Whose help do you need?
That's right. The good old. I think we know.
Yeah.
Anyway, my guest is a male.
Okay.
He was born in the same state as John Bon Jovi.
New Jersey.
Good. That's right.
okay.
This individual and I played the same sport growing up.
T-ball.
That's right.
Nuh-uh.
With our
Is that
feet.
true? Oh, soccer.
Yeah, that's right. Good.
Some places it's called football.
Some small.
Please,
Yeah.
Gretchen, be the sports expert on this podcast. That would be wonderful.
This person I see pretty regularly from
Tom Cole.
God, I wish it was Tom Cole. Yeah,
So
in my
sweet.
dreams at night. Actually, I'm just going to bring them around because
Okay.
they're the person who does my annual evaluations. It is Dave Zenk,
Dave
the executive
Hey.
director. Come around, Dave. There he is.
Hi, Dave
Yeah.
Zink.
I mean, there was like a Hollywood style like glasses removal as
Yeah.
he came around the
Yeah.
corner. That was impressive.
That's right.
Now, who decided that the uniform at the Metroparks was a vest?
Well, basically, I started wearing a vest, and Matt just copies me every day.
That sounds
That's
about right.
kinda
But
how
you
it
got to
goes.
scoot in, or these two
Yeah.
dumbasses will start yelling at you.
Okay.
We wouldn't yell at you because you don't get it wrong every episode.
Okay.
But we will yell at Gretchen.
All right, well,
because
let me know
she
if I can
does.
help.
Okay, perfect.
I'll
Thank
contribute. I'll contribute to that effort.
you. Yeah.
So, Dave, I just want to make sure I heard this right. It is I who have been chasing down your fashion.
That's how I have it. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Oh no, that's how you have it.
That's what it says here in the notes.
That's right.
That's how
That's
I
right
have
here in
it.
your annual review.
So,
Less vests for you. Yeah.
all right. So then, who was better at soccer, you or Matt? And this is only up to you.
We've
We're not
debated
asking.
this, and we've never actually played against each other, but I think the answer is clear here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not
Who was Division 1?
Dave.
Matt was.
I
Yeah.
played in Europe.
Oh.
Yeah. But that.
Oh, okay. So that's not where. That's actually not where I saw that going.
Yeah.
Yeah, me neither.
So you like.
Where in Europe?
Yeah,
Let's decide.
thank you.
I mean,
Come on.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say like,
A
were
little
you
place they call the Netherlands.
All right. All
like?
right.
Are you saying like you were on vacation and you like found a soccer
Found a
ball in the
park and
hotel?
kicked the ball around?
went and played?
That's right. Yeah. In the duty free shop, just
Again.
kicking the ball around. I was in Olympic development.
As was I.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Well, the words in it are helpful.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
Meaning that you were going to be in the Olympics?
Yes, it is sexier, admittedly, than it sounding than it actually is.
Okay.
But there was Olympic development in our region, and I was on the Olympic development regional team.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Probably
then
had either one of us come from a bigger town, we would have had a better chance at that, but
That's right.
that matters
Do you
So-
also refuse to wear shorts because
when I play soccer.
Yeah. Or just in general ever? Because
Does
Matt
anyone
does.
you play soccer in pants?
I don't wear.
Okay, Kevin, back to your question about who's better. It was just
Yeah.
answered.
wow.
Yeah. I didn't play soccer in pants.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
It's
Just when it was chilly.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's where I played my soccer.
Oh, you played in Chile.
Yeah, that's what he means.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Oh,
Let's start
Lord.
talking
Let's start
about
over
something
again.
else.
Okay.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Dave Zink.
Dave Zenk, everybody.
Yeah.
So, Dave, for people that don't know, you are the, what is it? CEO, president, chairman, director? What is it?
The director.
Director of Metroparks Toledo.
Yes.
So, can you give the elevator speech on what Metroparks Toledo is?
No. We're gonna.
We're gonna
do
go
not
back to
hijack
time?
this. We're gonna talk about this like any human being would want you to.
Okay, great.
Little Dave Zink
Did
growing
you just
up.
get cut off?
I did.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm not sure how
Well,
this
it's.
works
I mean,
now.
I mean, I feel like what we've found on
We
at least
do
what I
start
found on
with
this
birth,
podcast is like
usually.
oftentimes
we're starting from my birth. Okay.
Yeah.
the least exciting thing is what you do for a living.
Well,
the most
it
exciting thing is
happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
As far as we know.
Right. Thanks for coming on. Yeah. No.
So let's talk about birds and bees.
So Dave, in the Garden State, am I saying that right? Of New Jersey, you grew up in where you were a bit of a automotive brat. How did little Dave Zink become slightly larger Dave Zink here in Northwest
Well,
Ohio?
that's offensive, but
yeah.
so yeah, my dad worked for General Motors Cost Accounting, so it was basically the General Motors version of an Army brat. So we were, he would get shipped someplace, work at a plant for 2-3 years, get things sorted
2 or
out.
3
we
years.
we were on to the next place. So we never really stuck around too long. We had a lot of time in the Midwest and a lot of time on the East Coast, kind of vacillating between New Jersey, Michigan. Did a stint in Cleveland.
Yeah. I don't know that Cleveland would want you to refer to it in that way. You are where in the lineage? There's 3 of you, 4 of you, brothers and sisters?
There's 3 of us, and I am 11 years different, so clearly a planned.
You're the youngest?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So
Did
real
anyone ever
caboose.
refer to you as an
Yeah.
accident out loud?
My children, oddly enough, have pieced it together. Which I'm not sure that's
they've done the
appropriate.
math.
Or
Yeah.
No, actually,
They're
not
like,
that
"Wait a
long ago,
minute."
my son said, "You're 11 years younger than your brother. That doesn't seem right."
Right.
And
That's what
was
your mom
answer?
said.
Yeah.
I'm curious, kind of moving around every 2-3 years. Did it get easier as you got older, or did it get harder?
It's a great question, and it gets easier because you're always the new kid, right? In any situation, you're the new kid. It's at school, on the team, whatever, at church, whatever it is. And so it just, the first few that I actually remember, absolutely stunk, and then they did get easier after that. Yeah. In hindsight, it's I think it was actually a good thing. It's a totally different type of upbringing than most people ever have or experience, and it definitely takes you out of your comfort zone for 18 years when you're
Yeah.
doing it, right? And you never really feel like you've got truly established roots, but there's a lot of benefits to it as well.
What do you consider to be home?
Yes,
then?
that's the same
What's
question.
hometown?
So actually,
Wherever I am.
I as close to Matt as I can possibly be, right?
Same with us.
So I've lived in the Toledo area now as long as any place in my life.
Really?
So, and the interesting thing about that is if you ask my wife, so I met my wife in Columbus when we were at Ohio State, and I drug her back to the East Coast, and we lived there for 3-4 years or so, and we were getting ready to start a family, and she said, well, if we're going to do this, there's only one caveat. we're not doing it here. So she wanted to get back to the Midwest. She hated the East Coast.
Oh, wow.
And so
How long was she there? Were you guys there slugging it out?
3-4 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like a lifetime for you.
Yeah.
At that point, yeah.
I mean, you're moving every 2-3. I'm not kidding. Like every 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, we've been here 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So she actually brought me back kicking and screaming, and we sort of did the cliche thing where her family's about an hour west of here, super small rural farm community. There's not even a stoplight in their town. And so I said, there's no way we're going there. So we did the cliche thing where we wanted to be close enough to them, to her family, but not so close they could stop over unannounced for dinner, which kind of put us generally in the Toledo area. Knew nothing about Toledo, except at the time I knew I did not want to be here. And it was quite literally, dragging me
Had she
here.
spent any time here?
Well, Toledo, yeah. I mean, Toledo at that time for her was sort of still coming to the big city.
Was it close to the big city?
Right.
And so what year was
her
this that you
experience.
moved back?
This would have been a little over 20 years ago now.
And did you start at the Metroparks when you first came back here?
I did. So I had, in the East Coast in particular, there's not a metro park type of system. Most of the parks are state-based or even national. And so I really didn't know what the heck the Metroparks was when we moved back. There was a job opening. It was the park manager at Wildwood.
I did not know this about you. I didn't know that you'd been with the system that long.
Yeah. And so at the time, it was, okay, I'll see if I can get that job. Somehow I convinced them. I had no idea what I was doing. They should never have hired me.
We say the same thing about Matt.
I say the same thing about Matt. Yeah.
This is fun.
So, and really thought I was landing what was going to be a short-term job until I figured out what my real move was to get here. And
Why did you think that you could do that job or convince them that you could do that job?
the benefits are great.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
So in all honesty, we're starting a family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The benefits are great. I knew it would get us back to the area. It was going to be a stable,
What did you
stable
study?
gig.
I was going to say,
College?
yeah.
So it wasn't that far out of the realm of possibility. I studied environmental science.
Okay. That makes sense.
So it was sort of up my alley. But again, I had no idea the system. Had
Right.
no idea
When
what
you're
I
a
was
little
doing.
dude, what was your dream job?
Like everybody, I was going to be a professional athlete.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I had no plans whatsoever. Graduated high school in Michigan and knew that I didn't want to stay there for college, so that's why I ended up in Columbus.
Okay.
And it was like sort of another start over, right? Like there was nobody from Michigan seeks to go to Ohio State, and so it was sort of just the next chapter of starting over and the new kid again.
And that's because of the beatings they get there. Is that right? From the Michigan
I
people
think we're
get?
done here now.
Gretchen really marginally understands the sports joke she just made. So
I
give her,
didn't
give
even
her
mean
a
that
bit.
as a sports meeting. I just meant it literally as
Yeah.
a physical beatdown, not like
Yeah.
That was actually
sports-related.
Give her some grace.
So
Yeah.
Gretchen was around during the Toledo War, so that was really more of
Yeah,
a
that's
reference
right.
to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Expedite, your first day at the job, or was there an aha moment along that trek? in
Yeah,
year one?
it was about 6 months in or so when it started to dawn on me, maybe this isn't such a short-term gig. I really started to get, at that point in time, you go back 20 plus years ago, people used to comment about Metroparks being kind of the best kept secret in Toledo. At that point in time, we had 7 parks. We had no downtown presence whatsoever. And so, most people knew of Wildwood, maybe Swan Creek, right? But we actually at that time was the director. I remember having meetings, and the goal, frankly, was sort of keep your head down, keep the parks clean and safe, and we'll be fine for the next 10 years, right? That was the goal. We were intentionally insular and pretty secure in that way, and so it started to just resonate with me the opportunity that the Metroparks itself could actually play in the region's development, the role they were already playing, and just the notion of the conservation work that we were engaged with. It all started to click about that 6-month time period. And I remember telling my wife, this maybe isn't a short-term gig. I think I really want to make a run at this.
When did you, was there any, early in your career, was there a moment where, because you said you sort of convinced them that you could do this job even though maybe you couldn't, that the imposter syndrome wore off, that you were like, I'm actually good at this? Have you gotten there yet? Leave it alone, Matt. Leave it
you
alone,
want to
Matt.
answer?
Was it
Yeah,
yesterday?
my guess was pretty quick. Yeah.
No, I think
I drove in.
I think it actually helped in some ways. Totally fresh, not having any perspective coming in, and I was the guy who had a fairly diverse background, was able just to ask a lot of the right questions, intentionally not having to have the right answers, right? And so that gave me some perspective that the system didn't have, and started to, I think, appropriately allow me to just question everything we were doing in a positive way, and suggest that we could start playing a bigger role.
Was there something hobby-esque or something that you grew up doing that made you lean into the outdoors other than sports? Right. What is your interaction? Is this something just genetically passed down to you? What has made this part of your molecular being?
Interestingly, no, it wasn't. So the one, I think, moment that I knew, okay, the outdoors was really my thing. Again, my dad was an accountant, right? So, mowing the grass was a big endeavor for him. He was not an outdoors guy, really, generally speaking, at all. But I started early in high school, started taking up fishing, bought my first pickup truck with a lawn route and threw a canoe in the back, and just started, frankly, trespassing and fishing in ponds and lakes I wasn't supposed to be at.
On your own?
Yeah, mostly on my own.
Yeah.
And I think Dad took notice of that, and out of nowhere booked a Boundary Waters trip, which is like one of the most immersive nature experiences you can have. You're in the middle of nowhere, in between Ely, Minnesota, and Canada, and you can do it. We did the entire
Kevin, when
trip.
your dad drove you out to the woods and left you,
Yeah.
did you know that it was
Different experience, wasn't it?
Yeah. Did you know it had a name?
I actually can relate very much to you saying, like, when my dad mowed the lawn, it was that was a big deal.
Yeah, he was a handy guy, but just outside stuff was really not his thing.
My dad's not handy.
Yeah.
Right. It's just not like that.
Or outside.
Or so outside.
Yeah.
So when he
Or
left
acknowledges
me,
you.
when he left me at Wildwood,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, I got to find my way home.
Yeah.
Okay, here
But
we
did you
go.
have a canoe?
No,
Oh, see?
no.
So yeah, 10-day trip, totally in the wilderness. You pack in what you pack out.
How did
and
you know
you're-
how to do all that stuff?
We really didn't. I mean, I had gotten at that point fairly decent at fishing, and because we didn't know what we were doing, we took way more stuff than what we needed to. So we could have.
Who was with you?
Not
You,
caught a
your
fish.
dad, and your.
My brother and just a couple other friends.
Yeah.
And
But your brother was like in his 50s at this point.
that was a layup.
So your
We-
dad
we-
is
we wheeled him
65,
in.
55.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you were, what, 4?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So you're back to Wildwood. You start to get the fact that this might be a calling. Does that feel like something you're comfortable with referring to this?
It sort of clicked that it just felt right.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's fair to say it was a calling, but I guess I could start to feel like I could see a bit of a long-term trajectory. I could see, in some ways, maybe opportunities that hadn't been taken advantage of, and when I started to really challenge things like being called the best kept secret in Toledo. That's not such a positive thing, right? Like no
has
other
its
cultural
limits.
institution
Right.
would be interested in being called that.
Right.
And so those were the types of conversations that really started to evolve my career, and in some ways help me reposition the thought process at the Metroparks.
Did you ever do another one of those wilderness trips after that one?
I did.
Yeah?
We did another one with just a group of friends, and
Did you improve like all the stuff you had? and,
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually took almost no food, so we had to force ourselves to basically catch to eat. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
that?
Yeah.
Amazing.
I don't know that I'd survive that.
No.
Yeah. Well, I know that I wouldn't.
Okay.
So
Was there an early sort of project, or you said that you recognized that there was opportunities for the Metroparks to play a bigger role in the community? Do you remember kind of one of those early things that you're like, man, guys, if this was just that,
these
right?
guys connected.
Yeah, like kind of what I mean, because I can see certainly in the last 5-10 years a ton of those things, but you've been there over 20, so something would have been that first like, man, if we just added a bike ramp to Wildwood or whatever that may be. Was there one of those early on that you go, and maybe you're going, I'm gonna say this out loud in a meeting and hope to God that I don't get fired for this?
Well, I came up through the operations side of things, right? So operating parks was sort of my sweet spot. And as I moved up in the organization, one of the real aha moments for me was actually when we walked physically the site that is today Middle Grounds. And I think this was not only a bit of an epiphany for me, but for a lot of people. And thanks to frankly the conviction and the courage of the board, at that point in time, it would have been unheard of for Metroparks to come downtown. And we were looking at, by Metroparks standards, a pretty postage stamp piece of property. And quite literally, it was a bit of a landfill. It was construction debris,
Right.
so it was clean generally. But you remember that at that time in particular, you would get to sort of the base of Owens Corning's headquarters and look down the street and think, I probably shouldn't go
Dicey.
down there.
Right.
And we started looking at property like that and really comparing it to the history that we had evolved from. And today we're nearly 100 years old, but for the vast majority of our existence, we had served really one portion of our community, and that was western rural Lucas County. And so the opportunity came available to get that parcel relatively inexpensively. And that was really, I think, the aha moment when all of us sort of looked at each other and thought, we should be serving everyone in this community, not just western rural suburban Lucas County. And the notion that it started with as a conservation agency acquiring effectively a landfill, I think that was the thing and the moment in time that really got the ball rolling, if you will, and sort of changed the trajectory of what we thought we could pull off, what we could do. At the time, that was a massive project for us. We were a very small organization. At that particular time, I was in our planning department, and we had 3 people on staff, and for all of our planning, major maintenance, everything we do. And so to think, and at that time, it was the first new park that we had developed in 40 years. So
and how many? 4?
40.
Oh, 40.
The
My
last
God.
park that we had developed was Wildwood.
And so what was the time difference between Middle Grounds and starting the Riverwalk? Or was that ever included as part of like a conceptual thing, or did that develop after?
I think it's fair to say that the Riverwalk was about 5 years, 6 years later than
Okay.
Middle Grounds opened. But what Middle Grounds did was, I think, really give our entire organization a shot in the arm in terms of confidence.
Sure.
Right. So, firstly, the community had never seen us open a new park, let alone at this scale in this
On the
type of
waterfront?
location on the waterfront.
Yeah.
So, if you go back to that point in time, and we're early 2000s now when we acquired it, there was a lot of the public conversation that was taking place was, should we even be doing that? I mean, this isn't what Metroparks does. What are they doing, buying a landfill downtown? That's not what conservation looks like. That's not a Metropark.
Because conservation is grab and hold. Like, don't do anything, don't make it better, don't make it worse.
Well, if you measure conservation, a lot of times it stems from metrics like the restoration potential of a site. So if your only metric of success is how well a site will restore environmentally, you would never otherwise
Never
pick
do
a
that.
location like this,
Right.
right? Because we could invest in any of the coastal estuaries on Lake Erie or any of the upland prairie habitat and oak openings and measurably and empirically see way more significant results. That's the other thing that this project did for us. It started to reposition what success looked like for us. And a big part of that was serving community in different ways, serving populations that we weren't
A
serving,
whole nother part of the city.
and starting to realize the connection between the work that we do in economic development.
Were you a levy-supported organization in the early 2000s?
We were.
Okay. When was that first on the ballot? Or has it always been since the beginning in 100 years?
Correct.
Okay.
So I think the real significant uptick in terms of our growth occurred when Wildwood was saved.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the story behind that is in big part reflective of the support that Metroparks gets in the community. So if you were here, I wasn't part of it at all. But that was a real upswell of community support, and apparently that property was on the verge of being privately developed. And the community
For
said,
homes or for industrial? I mean, not industrial, but for
it would have been a subdivision.
commercial. Yeah.
It would have been a subdivision, and
What a waste, wow.
you think about
Yeah.
our community today without Wildwood, and it was really close.
Yeah.
And so many people who were a part of that, have great stories to tell about saving it, and that's a big part about why Wildwood is so popular today.
Dave, you made mention that the community, generally speaking, said, "Well, that's not what Metroparks does." To put you a bit on the spot, what does the Metroparks do?
So
Matt is actually asking you for himself.
Yeah, it would be helpful for the rest of my work week.
So our
You might get a pen out.
Our portfolio of work is really diverse, but you can boil it down into 2 simple things, frankly. We conserve and preserve, and in some cases, like we did at Howard Marsh, we actually create some of the region's most significant natural resources. And then the second thing that we did, and that we do, and this is really part of our evolution, was we find really creative ways to connect people into that. And there was always a healthy dynamic as I came up to the organization about the use of these resources, right? They're such a cherished, important resource in our community. And the question always became, is the use consumptive? Is it negative, these resources? And what we really started to understand as we evolved was getting people access to them and creating experiences only enhances their support of the conservation
Right.
work that we do. And so it sort of ended that healthy debate for us and made sure that everyone understood they're not mutually exclusive. They absolutely support each other and are a big part of our future. And so that's why you're seeing things like the Treehouse Village, right? This isn't...
Which is amazing.
This is this was a project entirely publicly funded, but at the end of the day, that represents a really cool way for families from all over the country to come and recreate and spend the night in one of the most ecologically sensitive areas that exist on the planet.
I always say from a nonprofit like mission fulfillment, mission creep standpoint, I'm fascinated by the Metroparks because if you read the mission as it relates to conservation, every time you put in a bike path, you're violating your mission, right? That's the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. But the idea that if we don't do those things, if we don't connect people to these resources, if we don't build those connections and relationships, and give opportunities for families to come and have meaningful experiences in nature, then we won't care about it. And then the rest of it goes away.
I mean, it was the Boundary Waters experience for me, right? That was the thing that put sort of my life on a trajectory, and it was that experience that really connected me to the work that we do today. And in some ways, that's analogous to what we hope to do for families in our region.
I've talked a
lot during the show already.
A lot, yeah. So obviously, Toledo Rotary has played a big role in Middle Grounds. I remember one of my early Rotary meetings. One of the moments that I was like, okay, this organization is onto something. But it was your presentation, and I think it may have been 9 years ago, where you laid out your vision for what Toledo could be and what the Metroparks could be. And it was so different from everything that I grew up thinking about the Metroparks as. But I just remember I think you were showing the downtown rapids in Iowa or something.
Des Moines or Boise.
Yeah. Okay. And so it's like, okay, wait a second. This guy's actually doing his homework and thinking big and saying, if they can do it, well then damn it, why can't we? And thinking big. And then you look at what has come about in the last few years.
Dave, can you use that sort of timeline to talk a little bit about, if this was a stakeholders meeting, how has your business been doing? Right?
Yeah.
What was the data? What return?
And I remember that presentation actually. And if you remember the moment in time, it was weeks after I had been appointed director. And so starting the process of really thinking through, because even then, I didn't think I was going to get the job.
And that's been 10 years?
That sounds right.
8?
Yeah, 10 years.
Okay.
So I wasn't sure I was going to get the job. I did, thankfully. And within weeks after that, you remember what happened in our community was the CEO of Hickory Farms, which had been here for nearly 100 years, announced that they were leaving town.
Yeah, screw that guy.
You getting the job and them
Lady.
leaving. You getting the job and them leaving are unrelated.
Totally
It has nothing to
unrelated.
do with the comment you made about summer sausage.
But what I didn't realize
That's why Matt wears pants.
at the time, what I didn't realize was that she actually gave me a bit of a gift, because when they were leaving, it was the why behind their departure that caught my attention. Because effectively what she said, and I'm obviously paraphrasing, but she said, we're leaving town because the quality of life in Toledo is so abysmal, we can't retain or recruit the talent that we need. We have 6-figure engineer positions. When they come in from town, they look around and say, I'm not bringing my family here. And so one of the things we do is provide quality of life. So we either weren't doing it effectively enough, or we weren't telling the story, or some combination therein. And so that really started us doing some of the benchmarking that you're thinking. So we went to who the chamber said was the cities that we compete against. And at the time, it was an odd roster, I felt, of communities, but they ended up being spot on. It was places like Boise and Tulsa and Des Moines and Grand Rapids. And one of the things that we realized was they were all investing way more significantly than Toledo was in the game of quality of life and outdoor green space. And they were translating that into increases in regional reputation, and they were using this as a tool. And you would go talk to some of these communities, and the business and thought leaders there, they would look you right in the eye and say, we could care less about green space or conservation. We're doing it to drive economic development. We're doing it to bring businesses into town. We're doing it to recruit, whatever. The list goes on. And that's what really caught our attention when we started benchmarking these things. And then we came back to town, right? And at that moment, Toledo was working on its downtown master plan. And we started looking around downtown. And we had a bunch of abandoned warehouses on the riverfront. We were still storing our bulk road salt. And it was sort of like the antithesis of what all of our benchmark communities were doing. You couldn't have written a worse script for us. And so that was where, the idea, this wasn't magic, and it wasn't, it wasn't real rocket science. This is working in every other peer community that does it. So it's not a matter of if it will happen. It's let's create the vision and the expectation that we can do it, but maybe do it better.
But that was the goal. Here. I mean, even if you take lesser known places like Manhattan Marsh, I mean, which is newer, but I'm not sure every Toledoan knows about it, but what it's done for that entire area, the neighborhood, the improvement of the streets, the conservation part, of course, it's just been an amazing transformation for that entire area.
The 8 years in, it's not just the downtown project, although I do want to hear some of the statistical return on that from your mouth. But countywide, we're a countywide agency. What's the data return on your vision?
So, well, firstly, there's a lot of people's hands on this vision, right? The community supports us. We've got an incredible board. I mean, Matt shows up to work 3, maybe 4 days a week.
And that only takes you down a little bit.
Right.
That's right. It takes the rest of the week to make up for that.
That's actually that's too much.
Yeah.
But I think the growth in terms of any metric that we evaluate has been on the same trajectory as the growth of our organization. So part of when we started at Middle Grounds, our vision was to start serving everyone in the community. And of course, most people know we created a goal to place a Metropark within 5 miles of every resident. It was Manhattan Marsh, thank you, Gretchen, that made that possible in the midst of the pandemic. And so firstly, we started to reach out to and connect with portions of our community that we had no reputation with, good or bad, because we weren't serving them. And they really responded. We started to learn the process of how do we design open space and amenities that actually are responsive to what they want in the neighborhoods that they come from. We've seen our visitation just increase dramatically. So in since 2017, we're up by 2/3. So we've seen over 21 million visits in that time period.
That's amazing.
And so, by all metrics, the condition of our built amenities are on the rise. The condition of our natural assets are getting increasingly more well maintained every year. We haven't really even announced it, but we're on the quiet trek right now to plant 1 million trees across our region, and we're well over a quarter way into that initiative at this point. So the support that we've received from the community is what's making it all happen.
It's really, truly, to one thing you just said, I think what the community enjoys the most is that combination of the built environments, which are spectacular in the context of these parks. I mean, the playgrounds are beautiful and well kept and modern, but then you can also go on a trail, and you can also ride a bike, and you can also swim and canoe and do all these other things. It's the combination of the presentation that's available at all these spaces that's so interesting and innovative, and I think that people are responding to.
Well, we had a pretty traditional approach for the first 80 years of our existence, right? And we maybe massaged on the fringes what a park might look like or what it could do, but we were pretty conservative. And I think to your point, the thing that's been interesting is watching our team's creativity explode as we've grown the park system. And every park that we've developed, we became the fastest growing park system in the country. We set a goal as part of that quest to place a park within 5 miles to create and open 10 parks in 10 years, and we did it in 8 years. And if you look at that portfolio of parks, every one of them is very different and very uniquely designed with really unique amenities in many ways that are responsive, again, to the communities that want to use them.
Your team also that does the planning has been and currently is just top notch. I remember one of the most fun things I got to do when I worked for the mayor's office was be in the meetings with you guys 8 years ago, where they were just maps when the city was the mayor wanted to give land over to Riverwalk and other places to develop these places. And it's just such a joy to think about that time and all of those little conversations and ordinances and conversations to council and the presentations and the number of times you guys had to show up and be ready and show these pictures and show the design and show the optimism of what you were going to do. And it's just truly amazing that this is where we are this number of years later.
When you think of the little kid that you grew up from, where do you think he would play in the park system you now run?
Probably off trail in places that he wasn't supposed to be.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's part of how I'm wired. Is
Yeah.
you know, if you ask people around the office, part of the reason that I think we have some success is that we start to think when we plan new parks or look at new initiatives that the rules don't apply. Right. And so we dream big. We set high expectations, and more we're starting to achieve some of those.
Were you getting to the time of the year where your staff is going to start asking to have all the meetings outside?
Very much so. Yeah.
And is that allowed?
Yes, that is very much allowed. One of the busiest offices we have is at Wildwood in the courtyard right next to the administrative building.
Yeah.
So pretty much the only arguments we have in the office is who's going to get to use that on any given day.
Got it. Yeah, I would want it. That's definitely a amenity if you were going to work there.
For sure.
But we can definitely boast some of the best views from our offices. So our field
and the best
office-
sounds too. I mean, 2/3 of our offices are, maybe hundreds of yards from a playground. So everyone has rough days at work, right? But I can tell you that it is, you do feel lucky when you can have a shot of wind in your sails by hearing the next generation of people having pure joy as a result of your team's spoils.
I feel like it's trite to try and go back 5 years into a pandemic and talk about that, but really you talk about folks finding joy at the parks, and I can't think of a more like glaring, man, are we grateful to have these parks than during that time when you've got to be outside, right? The only time you can get together people is outside, and we have beautiful places to do that. What was that time for you as a leader, for your team, to be able to, while everybody else is trying to panic and figure things out, and you're like, we can all take a break, we can, take a breath. The Mud Hens get to say, hey, our season just got canceled. Let's sort of, retreat into ourselves and strategize and think about when we come back. You guys it's Super Bowl literally every Sunday.
Well, but it's like everybody, it started from a place of should it be the Super Bowl? We didn't know anything more or better than anybody else, and so we thought it was the right thing to do to stay open. But of course, there were many people that were questioning that, and because we were the only game in town, our visitation was through the roof.
We were meeting multiple times a day, figuring whether or not we had to fence off playgrounds. We were debating how to sanitize slides, right? What our role should be. It was, as everyone else.
And that was all after we decided that it was the right thing to do to stay open. So we were going to Columbus to have debates and actually fight because we locked in and said, no, the green space is all we've got at this point in time.
I don't remember if that was ever one of the governor's closures, was like playgrounds and things. I know parks were always open, but in interior spaces,
playgrounds were
just for the real height of it.
That's right.
Right? Yeah, because of the inability to.
But there was there was real talk about whole-scale closing outdoor spaces in general in parks, right? And so firstly, before we even got into the Super Bowl moment, it was, are we doing the right thing, or is in any way does this represent jeopardy?
Are we a vector?
Right.
Yeah.
And so thankfully we kind of believed in what our product is, and it turns out I think it was the right decision because it was so important for all of us, really.
Dave, let me ask you a question. The amount of times you say "firstly," when
Is it a lot?
When
Secondly.
when does that come? Secondly, just never.
Okay, but hold the cue card. No more.
Yeah.
Firstly, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know why you talk to him at all.
Yeah.
It's
Firstly,
really
he
alarming.
It's a struggle.
Yeah.
Did you guys know each other when you were at Wildwood and Matt was at TBG
No.
back in the day?
We met one time in passing.
Which is why you got hired. Had you met?
Firstly, I'm not sure why he got hired.
And secondly, I agree.
no one is.
No, we had met one time, maybe twice in passing. I think I met when there was a release of a rebrand, and someone introduced us. And then the next time we met, it was through Jill saying that you wanted to have a meeting to meet the partners. And I said, oh, yeah, I'd met Dave before, so I met him at a Panera. I don't remember who was there. We talked for a while about sundry things. And then after that, Jill called again and said, Dave would like to have another meeting.
You're like, I'm married.
That's right. I said, first of all, Dave, I can tell it's your voice. Right? I don't know why I went to
Dave
get
didn't
my
have
number?
didn't have an assistant. He just had a high pitched voice. Yeah.
Dave would like to be with you again.
Firstly, this is not Dave. And then the second time that Jill called, I just said, why don't you just tell me what's happening?
Yeah.
I can
Figure it out.
or keep my mouth shut.
Right.
So
Well, I'm loath to give Matt a compliment for obvious reasons, but I think that you would agree with me that he does a spectacular job at the Metroparks. And he doesn't know I'm saying this and he didn't ask me to say it, but the connections that he's been able to make for Metroparks and on behalf of Metroparks with every sector of this community is truly remarkable.
There's no doubt. I don't go any place in the community if I have a logo on where they say, "Do you know Matt Killam?" Yeah. You know,
Like, yeah, this is his
knowing that gets
all right, let's move.
How often do you say, I've never met him?
all the time.
Yeah, it's
I've
good
never
move.
heard of him.
Anyway,
Does he really work for Metroparks?
I will say, and not to like, I don't know if I'm leaning into this or I'm making it better or worse, but the authenticity of everybody that I've met that works for
I agree.
Metroparks is just incredible. And I think, certainly that's a leadership thing, right? That
Agreed.
comes top down. And I know that you're going to deflect that and say it doesn't, but it does. But I think that that's evident. And so whether we're talking about, Scott or Allie or even Matt, like, and the list goes on, every interaction I have with anybody, I don't know that I've had a bad interaction with a park ranger, with a staff member, with your, alleged assistant, calling, trying to schedule a meeting. We know it's just you, but you're also nice in that role too.
When I think if I can interject for a second, when people have asked me with some real regularity over my 8 years or 7.5 years, what's it like working there? And I said, well, we've grown, but I said, there's 200 people that work there, and 180 of them are wonderful. But even the 20 assholes care about the park that you're visiting being up to the standards that you deserve.
And who are the assholes?
I have a list.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll
One of them
we'll
is
put
here.
on the show notes.
That's right. And that's true. So, I mean, if you can imagine working for a place where the people do get out of bed every day to make sure that your visitors, your guests, however you want to describe the people who use your product, is outstanding. I mean, that's a pretty great place to work. And it is really that way. So there's certainly people who drive me crazy, right? But I promise you, there has not been, almost without exception, anyone that I was like, God, this person really gives a shit
Right.
about the park they work at, specifically almost to a maniacal level sometimes, and the people who are enjoying it.
Do you have a favorite national park that you've traveled to, or another city's park
Kalahari.
system that you're like, this is amazing?
Have you been to Kalahari? It's awesome.
Every year.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. We do a lot of family vacations internationally. But every time we do, my family's gotten big into scuba diving, and so every time we do, we almost always end up in some form of wherever we are, their state or national park.
Kalahari is a water park.
They don't do scuba there, though.
It's true.
I mean,
Up to now.
Just give them another good
there's still
idea.
time. What has been your favorite
Yeah.
to visit?
So I think our favorite place in the world is a small island off of the coast of Honduras, Roatan. And you have to go on the opposite side from where the cruise ships come in, but it's still, I mean, it's like unfound, right? So you get there and you feel like a local. There's no touristy stuff whatsoever. The
That's
diving
cool.
is amazing.
Are you like a certified diver? And aren't there like levels to that?
There are levels, yeah. So we've got 3 kids at home, and everybody dives now. So we're actually, if I'm off a little bit, we leave tomorrow for vacation. So I
wow.
already have 1 foot on the plane.
God, that
Nice.
sounds
That's
great.
so nice.
Yeah.
Are you going back to this place?
No, we are not. We're going to St. Croix,
Okay.
Yeah.
which I haven't looked at a map. I'm not
I've
even
been
sure I
there.
know where that is.
Yep, it's in the Virgin Islands. You'll love it.
So, what your first job that afforded you this canoe was what?
My My first job in high school, I think I made what was minimum wage then? $5.60, something like that. Yeah, it was at a garden center in the town that we lived in, and had the most miserable job. Like, I was the kid out back that would have to empty the pots of all the dead plants just for hours at a time, just dumping.
And this job was
dead
to
plants.
afford you outdoor gear?
Yeah.
So from that kid to now being a scuba diving,
It's pretty good.
it's quite a jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is, if someone, there's a lot of kid listeners to this show, and they look to us for careers.
It's our primary demo is
Yeah.
7 to 9 year olds.
If someone's listening and thinks,
79-year-old.
that sounds like a cool job, I'd like to do that. What education, what majors, what should someone study to do that? Training,
So,
jobs?
I mean, I think the interesting thing about the Metroparks is, it's a microcosm, if you will, of any business, really. We've got accounting and clerical staff and administrative staff and operations. Not sure where Matt fits in and all that, but operations, which is the side that I came up with a lot of natural resources staff and biologists. So there isn't a perfect right fit, and everyone that's come before me has had a totally different background, frankly. Some more on the business side, some more on the administrative side. And if you look, that's one of the interesting things about sort of the construct of Metroparks, is that as a governmental organization, the diversity and flexibility that we have by construct intentionally through the Ohio Revised Code makes that possible, which is why we're able to do so many things that a typical kind of quasi-government organization wouldn't be able to do.
Very cool.
I'm curious, out of all of the great things that are happening, right? I mean, I say even a dream job is a job some days, right?
Yeah.
What is it that keeps you up at night? Can't say Matt Killam. I mean, he just eye contact straight to him. But
so I think the sheer volume of things that we've got going on right now is and the complexity associated with that, I think, is the stressor for me. So we kind of joke inside our organization that we thought we were busy 10 years ago, and we had no idea what busy looked like. But I think, to Matt's earlier point, the cool thing about the product that we produce and the work that we do, you could be at your lowest low, ready to kick the trash can over, and you walk into Glass City Metro Park and you see people walking through and potentially seeing it for the first time. Or you hear the comments of, I can't believe this is in Toledo, or it takes one of those, and it doesn't matter what was going on or what was stressing you out. It makes it all worth it.
Usually.
So we've got it.
Sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, on the wall behind you is a photo that Doug Heimbaugh took from Glass City Metro Park, looking at downtown. I remember my first time getting up on top of that overlook.
Yeah.
And just going, this has been the view the whole time.
Right.
This has been here the whole time. Right. And, so I'm 43. So I could have had that view for the last 43 years, and we're waiting until now. Right. But
See that far when you're a baby?
Oh, that's a good point. All right, that's so at least 41 and a half.
Right.
She's so dumb.
I know. It's science. Science is her area of expertise. It's that and sports.
I think it's science, medicine, literature,
Yeah.
and sports, probably.
I think it's
Top four.
always best for you to tell us what you're great at.
Yeah.
So
But that's kind of the cool thing about our work, right? Is that how many, me included, how many people had never been to East Toledo before that project opened up? I mean, if you didn't, and this was part. I mean, I know you remember Peter Ivagi. One of his all-time best quotes is that we've allowed the river to divide us instead of unite us, and that was true, because if you didn't live in East Toledo, particularly after the sports arena was demolished, there was pretty much no reason to go there, right? There just wasn't much there. And so such a significant portion of the visitation of that park, they're seeing things for the first time. They're visiting those neighborhoods for the first time.
The great thing about the Metroparks, again, and this isn't like just an overly praising the Metroparks thing, but the design and the kind of thing that you're talking about, it's intentional. Because the Metroparks very easily could have gone on Front Street and put a huge fence all the way down Front Street to block off everybody on the east side or whatever was happening across that street. But you didn't. We put in crosswalks. We put in lights so that pedestrians can get across. There's pathways to get up and through on your feet or on your bike into the park as a welcoming space for our East Toledo neighbors. So it's that intentionality in the design and wanting to serve those folks that I think make that so.
I think if you were to ask really almost anybody around our organization that's been involved with the Glass City Metro Park, I think the thing that you'll probably universally get answered as a real pride point for us is the effects that park in particular has had to the Garfield neighborhood.
Yes.
Immeasurably in any way you want to quantify it. So firstly, that was always historically a very tenanted neighborhood. When we opened the park, it was about 19% owner occupied. Today, 2 years later, we crossed the threshold of 60% home ownership in that neighborhood. The median home value was more than doubled, with housing prices now well in excess of $100,000. Right? These are all things that really matter. You're seeing new businesses and a new bank branch, and just the ball's really rolling in East Toledo. You're going to see over the next year or so construction start, thanks to our partners at the city. We brought in $30 million grant to totally reconstruct Front Street. Mm-hmm. So you cross the MLK Bridge, which is under construction as we speak today, and that entire part of our community has gotten a facelift.
So this episode is going to come out in April. You guys have got a levy on the ballot the beginning of May.
Wait, I thought all this stuff was free. No, that's not a good joke. Sorry. Go ahead.
I don't even know where to go for that. I was waiting to see where Gretchen was going with that.
That was it. That was it.
So our options are levy or Gretchen pays for all of it.
Right.
Either way.
So if Gretchen says no, which I'm assuming she will.
Which she never has.
Right.
Talk to me about what is this? Why? What does that mean to somebody at home? Talk to me about the levy.
Yeah. So we are on the ballot in May, as you said, and this is our operating levy. So this is effectively what keeps the lights on, the parks well maintained, clean, and safe. It is true we're going a couple years early, and that is frankly because we viewed this as an opportunity to keep our promise to the community. Mm-hmm. And you might remember, but we've talked about this for years and years, that our commitment as we grew was to diversify our overall revenue in such a way that we could live off of forever replacement or renewal levies. And so the reason that we're going a couple years early is there's a House bill that's introduced that is very likely to pass this year, House Bill 28, which will take our ability away to even seek a replacement levy. And so we made the decision to go early as a means to continue that promise to the community. This is probably our last replacement levy that we'll ever able to pursue.
What does dollars look like for homeowner? I mean, everything. I'm an idiot when it comes to this stuff. So, honestly, I blindly vote yes on the levies that just are no-brainers to me. Metroparks, library, schools, those things. It's like they're not going to get better with less money. So let's just say yes and we'll figure it out. But what does this mean to the average homeowner?
This may be a long-winded answer, but it's something that I certainly didn't realize or appreciate before I started working in the public sector. When we pass a levy, and this one's no different, this levy is currently based at 1.4 mills. That millage actually never grows. So as your house grows in value over the course of time, you would naturally think, okay, well, now the Metroparks is getting a little bit more because my house is worth a little bit more. That doesn't happen. What happens is we still collect the same dollar amount that we did, in this case, from 2007. Mm-hmm. So what your house was worth, if you're a homeowner in Lucas County, in 2007 is effectively what we're collecting. And our millage rate actually gets reduced every year by state statute in order to make sure that happens. So the reason we're doing this is because the dollars that we're collecting now are based on the cumulative value of Lucas County's home value in 2007. The other thing is, it's important, we are not increasing millage here. This is still 1.4 mills, but the replacement levy gives us the ability to capture the inflated values since 2007. So that's why we've committed to replacements or renewals only.
And you guys have done a little bit since 2007, so
right.
It makes sense that it's about time to relook at that.
But a big part of our overall strategy is we look at diversifying revenue. Some of the things that you're seeing in the parks today. Downtown, we talk about the restaurant that's in the park, our partnership with the pickleball facility, our partnership with the ice skating ribbon. That's not Metroparks operating any of these kind of joint ventures or these businesses, but at the end of the day, it's new experiences for visitors that also generates revenue that we benefit from to offset our operational growth. So the reason that we've been able to sustain since 2007 on the same dollar on the growth trajectory that we've been on is because of the creativity of our team to put experiences like that in that benefit everybody, but also generate a little bit of revenue to help offset our growth.
That's awesome. All right. So I'm excited for the future. What is the thing that is on the whiteboard in your office that the dream, right? You still haven't gotten it yet. What's the thing that you want for Metroparks, the thing you want for Toledo?
I think the exciting thing, and this isn't cliche, it doesn't exist yet. We don't even know it. And that's the exciting thing about our work. When we started downtown, we had no idea what was next. In the interesting moment in time that we are in, we're only about 50% done. So later this year will be the 50% milestone. So
What would be the milestone?
So the part of work that's under construction as we speak, really the downtown central business district, and the first part of International Park.
That'll be 50%.
That's the next phase that we're currently under construction on, and when that's complete, that marks 50%. And we really don't have complete designs or concepts on the next 50%. And so, in many ways, that's dreaming some of those things up is the most fun part for our team, and that's why I don't even know that we can answer that question because we don't know what's next yet. And when our team created the aspiration for this project to become the country's best riverwalk, I mean that's where all these new creative influences come from. We're encouraging our team and frankly more and more the community to think at that expectation.
Do we know what the issue number is yet for the ballot? 7, 8? I can't count.
I loved so much you
Issue
trying to
8.
count those
Boy,
fingers.
and I'm like, wait.
It was the thumb that threw me off too.
It's 8.
Issue 8. Okay, well that's exciting. May 6th.
All right. Well, I will wrap this up. Dave, it is an honor to work for you as a
With me.
He's unbearable. with you. I feel better. This vacation can't start fast enough. Do you have a ride to Sandusky, Dave, for Kalahari, your scuba diving experience? It's been an honor to work amongst you, and as someone who is raising children in this region as well, thank you for making it a better place for them to live.
No, thanks for having me. You guys all obviously play a huge role in part in why Northwest Ohio and Toledo is so great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks to Dave Zenk for being our guest. And thanks to our sponsors, Wetro Wealth Management and WorkSpring for their support of the 419. Support issue 8. I feel comfortable on behalf
Me
of all
too.
of us
So excited.
at the 419. It's an important issue.
Despite Matt working there, it's still worth supporting.
Right. Yeah. I wonder if there's a way
don't
for us
overly
to
use the word firstly.
That's right. All right. Perfectly. Wonderful.
Dave.
All right, Dave, thank you so much. And thank you for listening. We'll be back in another couple weeks with another episode of the 419. How can Wetro Wealth Management help with tax planning? Wetro Wealth Management's certified financial planners will monitor your taxes for planning purposes. When taking distributions, they help to calculate the potential tax obligations, ensuring you will be equipped to deliver accurate returns to the IRS. No overpaying, no underpaying. Our accounting group will provide tax preparation and work directly with them to ensure your taxes are tended to with the same trusted, transparent care you've come to expect from Wetro Wealth Management. Whether it's for retirement, an IRA, the licensed financial advisors at Wetro Wealth Management will help you achieve your investment goals and prepare your taxes simultaneously. Learn more at WetroAdvisors.com. Affiliated with Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. 100 East 6 Forks Road, Suite 200, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27609. 919-831-2370.